Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends around the world, I'm very pleased to welcome you all on behalf of the International OIP Foundation and the Global Vision Zero Business Council to this official side event of the 22nd World Congress on Safety and Health at Work. We are excited about offering you one of the opening acts for the Congress, the most important gathering of the international occupational safety and health community, which finally will open its virtual doors only 2 days from now. This World Congress, which itself has suffered from the COVID-19 pandemic, as it had to be postponed and to change format, takes place at a very special moment. While the pandemic has, and still to some extent, is causing disruption and pain, it also offers us an opportunity to reflect not only about where we were before the outbreak, but also what lessons we have learned during the pandemic and what we would like to do differently, hopefully better in the future. In short, to rethink our economic, social, and health protection models. Even before the pandemic, the world of work was confronted with a number of major disruptions because of globalization, climate change, and digitalization, but also due to increased migration, population aging, and a rise in chronic diseases. But while these disruptions all have a longer-term nature, the pandemic caused dramatic short-term health, social, and economic disruptions, practically within weeks and all over the globe. Like a gigantic stress test, the pandemic revealed strengths and weaknesses in our health prevention and protection systems and in our ability to respond and adjust as societies, economies, and individuals. The World Economic Forum has on this background launched the Great Reset Initiative and has called upon world leaders to join a discourse about a new and better post-COVID future for people and planet. The global OSH community has responded to this call, and during international and regional Great Reset events organized by the OIP Foundation, expressed its readiness to contribute to a safer, healthier, and more sustainable post-pandemic world of work. The reason for this bold response is our firm belief in the unique potential of prevention to enable sustainable value creation where people come first. However, to unlock this unique potential, we must address 4 important challenges. These are changing the mindset about protecting and promoting health and sustainability, designing new incentives to promote and develop a holistic prevention culture, creating new metrics for assessing prevention, and benefiting from the opportunities for prevention offered by digitalization. In line with the overall theme of the World Congress, Prevention in the Connected Age, Global Solutions to Achieve Safe and Healthy Work for All, our side event today will focus on the 4th challenge for prevention, namely to benefit from digitalization. Over the next 3 hours, we will address the risks and opportunities of digitalization for safety, health, and well-being at work, which in my view is one of the most exciting topics for the future of prevention. Why? Because if we manage to reduce the risks and to maximize the opportunities of digitalization for prevention, we will be able to take a gigantic step towards our overall strategic objective of Vision Zero, that is, of a world of work without accidents, disease, and harm, a world of work where people come first. Let me briefly introduce the program of our event, called Vision Zero and the Great Reset, Digitalization for Prevention. We'll address 4 exciting topics. The first session focuses on the importance of more flexible solutions as regards both working hours, workplaces, and work organization. In his presentation, Marc de Graef, owner and managing director of Prevent from Belgium, will introduce their model for a new, flexible way of working to ensure safety, health, and well-being in the digital economy. The second session addresses the critical role of digitalization for the development of predictive prevention concepts and tools. Vincent Young, principal consultant at the Occupational Safety and Health Council of Hong Kong, and Marco Meyer, managing director of Tony, Germany, will share insights into and demonstrate the impressive potential of big data, AI, and IoT to boost predictive prevention. The third session presents a new prevention concept to manage the changing relations between digital technology, such as robots and cobots, and people. Toshihiro Fujita, director of the Institute for Global Safety Promotion, and Takashi Kawata, standing advisor at Shimizu Corporation, will join us from Japan and introduce collaborative safety, or Safety 2.0, and share a practical example of how this new concept can contribute to well-being in a digitalized world of work. The fourth session takes a more holistic view on digitalization and prevention. Pernille Tau, Department Manager at Human House Leadership and OHS from Denmark, and Annick Starren, Project Manager at the European Agency for Safety and Health at Work, based in Bilbao, Spain, will share conceptual and practical insights into managing the risks and optimizing the opportunities of digitalization for safety, health, and well-being at work. Our event will close with a roundtable where we'll have an opportunity to discuss and go into depth with some of the points presented by our outstanding expert panel. But before we get started with the first session, I would like to ask Natalia Mendes, Secretary General of the International ORP Foundation, to present a short video about Vision Zero and the Great Reset. Natalia, please. Well, with this introduction video, it's time to come to the first session. And Marc de Graef, as I said, owner and managing director of Prevent Belgium, will share their newly developed model about a new way of working. And I believe everybody who is attending this event has, over the past 1.5 years, experienced changes in working hours, working place, and work organization. And so therefore, Marc's considerations and I think very interesting proposal to flexibilize work in the future, I think comes very timely also for all of us that have been affected by these disruptions of our normal working schedules. So with this, please, I would like to give the word to Marc de Graef.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this session, which I'm pleased to share with you some experiences on the new way of working. Myself, I'm Marc de Graef. I'm the CEO of Prevent in Belgium, specialized bureau on health and safety at work. And I will start sharing my screen with you. Uh, Here it is. So, the topic of my presentation is a new way of working to ensure safety, health, and well being in the digital economy. And the idea is this new way of working, will it lead us to an improved work life balance? That's the main question. So, telework. Um, it used to be some awkward concept before the pandemic because we had limited or no telework for office workers. Even, let's say, in many companies, it was not allowed to work from home or to work from a remote area. Everybody had to be in the office. So we saw busy landscape offices with a lot of people talking, let's say, amongst each other. Very difficult to concentrate. Also, we saw intense commuting with traffic jams at rush hours, etc. And then all of a sudden came Corona, and we were faced with a pandemic, and so the mindset changed. All of a sudden, teleworking became a rule for office workers. Some, even in many companies and in many countries, it was not allowed anymore to come to the office and to go to work to the office. We had to stay at home. And so we saw empty landscape offices. And we saw also, let's say, roads with no traffic, so limited commuting traffic and no traffic jams, which was a relief. So the question is this telework? Is this something that goes from zero to hero? And will it be the new normal uh, to to work from, let's say, from remote areas, or has it some disadvantages if we have to work from home, where we don't have an office sometimes, um, like we see here, surrounded by children, by cats and dogs, by The Simpsons on television, by PlayStation. You know, is it possible to concentrate in this way, or do we have to find out some other ways of, uh, let's say, of working? So we see indeed some negative effects of this continuous telework, like exhaustion because of, let's say, longer time we are in front of the screens. We see also that people have not adapted office furniture, so back and neck pain are quite often, let's say, are some problems that people that work from home are confronted with because of this non-ergonomic design of workstations. We also see an increasing anxiety because of isolation. We see stress because of a poor mental balance. We see sleep disorders. And all this, of course, is also caused by this increased fading of the distinction between work and private life. Um, Both lives are mixed, and the people indeed are not able to make that distinction anymore. They are always, let's say, at work, and sometimes it's also expected that they react to mails, to conferences, online conferences, all during the whole day. These are one of these are the problems, or some of the problems that are linked to this continuous telework. So the question is, will we return to the old normal? Well, I guess there will be no, at least not a complete return to the old normal, because indeed habits have changed. And we are now, let's say, more than nearly 2 years in this pandemic. And indeed, in 2 years, a lot of things have changed, things that we could not imagine that they would change. They changed. And so we see indeed some positive effects of telework, such as a reduced office space. We don't need so much offices anymore. And then, of course, linked to that, we see less traffic. We see also an increased autonomy of the workers, more flexibility in the organization, and an improved productivity. Some of the positive effects. So the new normal, what will that be? Will there be a shift from sedentary workers to digital nomads, for instance? And how can we find an optimal balance between work and private life? Because this was one of the negative effects of this continuous telework. So the new normal that we will have to face, what will it be? What will the characteristics be? Well, first of all, we see that work has to be more based on the activity. So we have to rethink the purpose and the role of the physical workplace as such. We need workplaces with a flexible layout adapted to the type of work that has to be carried out. So a flexible layout. So we see that there will be more co-creation areas needed to work together. We need bubbles to concentrate and quiet areas to read or reflect. And this will be combined with working from remote areas. So work in the office and work from remote areas. And that can be homework or working from home. That can be working from co-working places, from meeting hubs, from satellite offices. So the work has to be more based on the activity. But even then, we will see a shift. Not only the activity as such will determine, but also the characteristics of the person. So we see that especially some youngsters, they only need a computer and a mobile phone, a smartphone, and they are connected to the internet. So we see a certain rise of the digital nomad who can work from everywhere. So there is a new way of living and working that will emerge. And so from the activity-based working, there will be a shift to a need-based working. And because the activity-based working does not take into account the specific situation and characteristics of the individual worker, and the need-based working optimizes the match between the physical workplace and the specific needs of the individual worker. And so we will have a need-based working, which is based on the one hand side on the characteristics of the task, and on the other hand side on the characteristics of the individual worker, such as his or her profile, the family conditions, the housing, the location, where do we live, do we have a large house, smaller house in the at the countryside, in the middle of a busy city, a busy road with small children, with no children, with cats and dogs, whatever. So all these aspects have to be taken into account. And so then I think a need-based working will match more the specific situation of the modern worker, the modern office worker. So this brings us to, of course, the new way of working. And there were already tendencies to focus on this new way of working before the pandemic. But during the pandemic, all this thinking has to be, let's say, went on, and finally we arrived at, let's say, a concept that, let's say, characterizes this new way of working in a way that it takes into account the situation and the kind of work and the characteristics of the individual worker and also of the group of workers. So they could work, they could do their work from many different places, depending on the kind of work that has to be done and on the circumstances they are living and working in. So the new way of working is characterized by a flexible organization of working time, work content, and the working environment. And the objective is to carry out the work in an efficient, effective, and also pleasant way. It goes hand in hand with a culture focused on cooperation and obtaining results. I believe this is important, and we have to cooperate more than we did in the past, even in this open space office, large offices. There was not enough cooperation. Everybody sat behind his own desk and was concentrated on his own screen. This kind of work we can do from remote areas if we come to an office, or if we come to a place where other colleagues are, then it should be the idea to cooperate and to focus on the results. So the new way of work focuses on time and location independent working. It focuses on new design of offices, and it focuses on an adapted work organization with the emphasis on results and not only on the sufficient presence in the office. Now, it also links to bricks, bytes, and behavior, because it is a result, of course, of, on the one hand side, adapting the office, that's the bricks, ensuring a state-of-the-art technological support, that's the bytes, and changing the organizational culture and the human factor, and that's the behavior. But success depends to a large extent on changing the culture. And you can change the bricks and you can change and adapt the bytes, but if you don't change the behavior, nothing will happen. So it's only 10% bricks, 10% bytes, and it's 80% behavior. So we have to change the culture and the behavior within the organizations. And their success factors are support, autonomy, project-based teamwork, and need-based organization. And if we take into account all these aspects, then for sure we will have this new way of working that will lead to a working environment and a work organization that will be in the interest of organizations, companies, but also of the individual workers. So, new way of work, of course, there will be a need for a continuous innovation, and especially a continuous technological innovation of organizations, but also innovations of the supporting technology. And there we see that there will be a need for further digitalization with an improved access to digital collaborations tools, support of virtual collaboration, like for instance, video conferencing, which is not so popular at this moment, but which might become in the near future. And of course, promotion of knowledge sharing. The new office will focus on collaboration and on co-creation, and also on the promotion of communication and informal meetings. And the results of this new way of work will be an increase of productivity, better opportunities for continuous growth in the organization, reduction of absenteeism, and a better work-life balance. And that's, of course, the final objective, that we will reach a better balance between, let's say, working and living. There will also be, and we all already see that tendency at this moment, an increasing focus on co-working areas, like we will try to find an optimal mix between this working from home and working at the office. So we will need working environments that are based on a modern economic standards, which we can not always offer at home, but we can offer them in satellite offices, in co-working areas, where we can also offer access to state-of-the-art technology, which will not always be available at remote areas where people are living. And of course, important to reduce these problems of anxiety and isolation, there will also be a guarantee for social contacts. So I think that there will be in the near future indeed an increasing focus on these co-working areas. And so finally, the advantages of this new way of working for the employer, I think they are clear. We see an increased commitment of the workers We see positive effects on retention, on satisfaction, and on motivation. We see an improved flexibility of the organization. It's much quicker to adapt the organization to the new needs and to the new challenges than when you're, let's say, more in a structured context with less flexibility. And that's, of course, also has the positive effect that there will be a saving on accommodation costs and an increase of productivity. For the workers as such, it offers more flexibility to balance work and private life. It offers better health and less absenteeism, an increased sense of autonomy, and it offers also the possibility to work more efficiently at times of personal choice. And of course, the traveling time will be reduced if from time to time people can work from home or from a satellite office or from a co-working area in their neighborhood. And so finally, I believe that if we organize this in in a good way, if we think strategically, if we include, let's say, the workers also when determining the strategy of this new way of work and how to implement it in our organizations, it will offer a better work-life balance, a better life between living and working, and so offering better health, better mental health, better physical health, and let's say for the organizations also an increased productivity, less absenteeism, more commitment. So in the end, a win-win for organizations, for companies, and for the workers. So I would like to thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you very much, Mark, for this excellent presentation. And the future is already there. I think many of the solutions you have indicated are already being tested. And no doubt, flexibilization will be the name of the game in the future. We hear more and more companies that already have made public that although, let's say, their societies, their countries go back to normal and lift restrictions, that they will have more flexible work arrangements. And there, of course, it's important that lessons are learned, and then first and foremost, that safety, health, and well-being are taken into consideration, and all the opportunities that you also highlight are included in these considerations. So thank you very much to you. And with this, we go to the second session. The second session is about big data, AI, and IoT. So now we're really talking about technology and a very interesting aspect of technology, which is in a way a dream all preventionists have had, to go from reactive to proactive or predictive prevention. And we're very pleased to have with us two exceptional experts in this field. And the first one is Vincent Young, a principal consultant of the Occupational Safety and Health Council of Hong Kong. And Vincent, it's always a pleasure to have you here and to listen to what you in Hong Kong are up to. It's about technology. So please, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Hans-Horst, for your kind introduction. And let me share my slide first. So good morning. It is a great pleasure for me to attend this conference. And first of all, I have to thank the organizer, the International ORP Foundation, and also the Vision Zero Business Council for organizing such a meaningful event in connection with the World Congress on the Safety and Health at Work in Toronto. And this event is an important platform for us to exchange information and ideas on how to promote the concept of the Vision Zero. And today, I would like to share with you our Hong Kong experience on how digitization, such as big data, artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things, that can enable predictive prevention concepts and tools. And before I start, I would like to introduce our council. Occupational Safety and Health Council is a statutory body established by the government in 1988. And our role is to promote safety and health at work and also sustain the valuable workforce of Hong Kong. And in order to achieve this mission, our council has provided a variety of services to the industry, such as promotion, education and training, consultancy services, and also the research and the strategies development. And through these services, we strive to enhance the occupational safety and health standard in Hong Kong. And our government is also committed to develop Hong Kong into an innovation and technology hub. And in our Chief Executive's policy address of 2020, our government has committed over 100 billion funding for the innovation and technology development. And in the coming years, our government will help various sectors such as finance, education, healthcare, and also the logistics, construction, and also the manufacturing industry to develop the new technology in Hong Kong. And also besides Hong Kong, we also work with other cities in China, such as the Guangdong province of the Greater Bay Area, especially on the research and development of the new technology. And one of our important projects is to develop Hong Kong into a smart city. And last year, our government has published the Hong Kong Smart City Blueprint 2.0. And our government has also come up over 130 initiatives, mainly in 6 areas, which includes the smart mobility, the smart living, the smart environment, the smart people, the smart government, and also the smart economy. And through this smart city project, our vision is to embrace innovation and technology so as to build a world-famed smart Hong Kong with a strong economy and a high quality of living for our citizens. And next, I would like to show you some examples on our smart city development. And the first one is the multifunctional smart lamppost. And from here, you can see that there are some sensors and detectors installed on the lamppost. And at the top, you will see that there is a thermal detector, which can help us to collect the traffic data so as to monitor the traffic status and also the road incidents. And at the bottom, we also make use of the meteorological sensor and the air quality sensor for better provision of the weather and environmental information. And we also make use of the Bluetooth beacon, GeoQR code, and also the RFID tag to support the development of the location-based application and also the provision of the 5G networks in Hong Kong. So from here, you can see that the smart lampposts are the key infrastructure on our smart city development. And next, I would like to show you how to leverage advances in CCTV and the Internet of Things on our smart city development. And from here, you can see that we make use of the technology on the CCTV surveillance cameras and the advanced video analytical tools. And why we develop this technology? Because we see that crowd management is important, especially when there is a large group of people gathering in a specific area at the same time. And from here, you can see that this may happen especially in the peak hour of the mass transit railway. And there will be lots of passengers using the services. And you can imagine if there is a fire happened, then the crowd will be in panic and they may push against each other and may result in serious slip, trip, and fall accidents. So that is why we make use of this CCTV surveillance camera and also the advanced video analytical tools such that we can detect the crowd flow automatically. And also we can identify any abnormal or dangerous situations in the high-risk area. So by leveraging the Internet of Things, this real-time data can be sent to the monitoring stations for the analysis and the follow-up actions. And besides this crowd management system, we also make use of the Internet of Things to enhance our area traffic control system. And by using the intelligent transport systems, not only the traffic conditions can be monitored and communicated, but also the traffic lights can be controlled in real time so as to help both the motorists and the pedestrians to cross the roads and junctions in a safer and more efficient manner. And next, I would like to show you another example on how to apply the Internet of Things and big data on the driving safety. And as you know that each year, we have lots of the car crash accidents due to the drowsiness of the driver. So that is why the bus company in Hong Kong has developed a drowsiness monitoring system. And by using the facial recognition system and the image processing technology, if the driver feels fatigued or drowsy during driving, then the system will provide warnings in audio and vibrations so as to alert the driver to pay attention. And besides the drowsiness monitoring system, the bus company in Hong Kong has also developed an advanced driver assist system. And if there is a risk of the forward collision or lane departure, then the system will provide warnings to alert the drivers to pay attention so as to prevent accidents happen. And also, as we are now still in the pandemic, so how to make use of new technology to combat the COVID-19 is also one of our main focus. And from here, you can see that this is an intelligent sterilization robot. And by using the autonomous navigation technology and also the advanced obstacle detection, this robot can plan their routes and conduct the disinfection by automatic routing. And also, this robot can achieve multiple disinfection by using the ultraviolet light and also the spraying of the hydrogen peroxide through a 360-degree disinfection spray head. So with this efficiency, it can also be widely used in some areas, such as the shopping mall, office building, and also the hospitals, as well as the airport for the disinfection. And next, I would like to talk about the smart, sustainable, immunized building. This is an important concept on how to optimize our building operation system so as to respond to the pandemic. And by using the big data and the Internet of Things technology, the system can conduct a real-time monitoring of various data, such as the ventilation rate, humidity, ambient, and the outdoor temperature. And with the measurement of this data, the system can help to optimize the buildings for the COVID-19 prevention, such as increasing the ventilation rate, maintaining the optimal humidity, or using the HEPA filter for the filtration of the indoor air so as to prevent the transmission of the airborne infectious diseases. So from here, you can see that a smart building operation system can help us to create a comfortable and a healthy building environment. And in the pandemic, our government has also launched a Live Home Safe mobile apps in November last year. And why our government launched these apps? Because it can help us to record our visits to different venues, such as restaurants and also the shopping malls. So how to use these apps? Say, for example, if you have visited the venue in which COVID-19 patients has also visited at the same time, then you will receive a notification from the apps. And the notification will contain information on where and when the exposure might have occurred. And health advice will be sent to the users to remind them to take proper precautionary measures and seek medical treatment if need. And recently, we have also added a new function on the apps, allowing the public to store their COVID-19 vaccination records and also the electronic testing records, such that to facilitate the easy display of the records when necessary. And with the use of this new function, the user can use the apps much more easily. And also it can facilitate our Department of Health to trace the close contact much quicker. And next, I would like to talk about how to apply the big data, artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things on our construction industry. And from here, you can see that this is a software robot with artificial intelligence, and it can act as a mobile virtual assistant. And you can use the system for reporting the near miss. And when you report the near miss, you can simply key in the near miss location, the description of the near miss, and also you can attach the photos when necessary. And besides reporting the near miss, the system can also be used for the safety inspection. And you can use the inspection checklist in the system. And when you conduct the inspection, you can key in the descriptions of the safety or unsafe conditions. And then you can attach the photos and provide recommendations to rectify any unsafe conditions. And by using this safety inspection checklist in the system, after you have conducted the inspection, you can also upload the results on the cloud system to generate the report to relevant parties for the follow-up actions. And besides inspection, you can also use the software robot for the fatal zone alert. And as you know that on the construction sites, we have lots of the fatal zones, such as the lifting zones or excavation zones, and the worker may have the risk of being struck by the heavy machinery. So by using the artificial intelligence and the facial recognition system, if the workers have entered the fatal zones, then the system will generate an appropriate alert and then enable a real-time monitoring of the worker safety. Next, I would like to talk about the smart wearable. And from here, you can see that this is an example of the smart helmet. And it consists of the Internet of Things sensors and the GPS trackers so as to real-time locate the worker's position. And the helmet contains the sensors that can help to measure the health condition of the workers, such as the body temperature and the heart rate, etc. And these data measurements are useful, especially when the workers are working in a hot and humid conditions. And if the workers are not feeling well, then the sensors in the helmet can detect the adverse health condition of the workers and then provide warnings to alert the supervisors for the rescue operation. And this smart helmet can also be used for the danger zone alert. And from here, you can see that in the excavation zone, if there are some unauthorized workers entering the zone, then the safety helmet can provide warnings to alert the operators to stop the machine so as to prevent the accidents happen. In Hong Kong, we are also now exploring the use of the robotics on our construction industry. As you know that because now in the construction industry, we are facing the problem of the manpower shortage. We are also facing the problem of the aging workforce. So how to make use of the robotics to enhance our work safety and also improve our productivity is also one of our main focus. And from here, you can see that these are some examples of our smart robots, such as the automatic welding machine, the automatic wall plastering machine, and the automatic paint spraying machine. And with the use of the artificial intelligence, we can allow the robots to assess the working environment continuously. And with the installation of the safety sensors in the robots, we can allow the workers to work closely with the robotics in a safe manner. And now there is also an increasing trend of using the drones. Usually before that in the construction industry, we will use the drones for the site surveying. But now we also extend its application on the safety inspection. And by using the big data and the artificial intelligence, the robots or what we call the drones can be intelligent enough to predict the inspection work and prioritize the safety inspection. And also, we can extend the application of the drones for the search and rescue operation in the remote areas. And from the video, you can see that this is a heavy lift drone with 28 propellers. It can carry a payload of 200 kilograms And by using these heavy lift drones, it can provide a quicker search of the injured person, especially in large remote areas, and can save lives much easier. And also by using the infrared measurements, you can use the drones for the detection of the water leakage and the surface cracking of the building. And also by using the LiDAR scan, you can also use the smart drones to conduct a 3D laser scanning so as to develop the digital building information modeling. And this can benefit the development and also the digitalization of the building design process. And also it can add credit on the design for safety. So I have just shown you some examples on the application of the new technology. But before adopting this technology, we need to ask several questions. First of all, will the new technology create new occupational safety and health risks? Say, for example, when we use the robots for lifting or moving the heavy objects, will the robots also have the chance to hit the nearby workers and thereby create accidents? And also, we need to ask, when the system fails, is the new technology still safe? Say, for example, when we use the smart drones for the safety inspection, if suddenly the motor of the drones burn out, or if the system cannot receive the GPS signal, is the new technology still safe? And also, we need to ask a question, has data privacy protection properly addressed when developing the new technology? Because when you use the big data or Internet of Things, we have a chance to expose the personal data. And in Hong Kong, we have a personal data privacy protection ordinance. And when we develop the new technology, we need to observe the requirement of this ordinance and need to strike a balance between the data privacy protection and the development of the new technology. And also other questions that we need to ask is that how do we develop our organizational capacities for the change? And also how the new technology governs and impacts the industry. Say, for example, will more people lose their jobs because of the new technology? Or will the productivity of the industry will be increased? So these are some of the questions that we need to ask before adopting the new technology. And finally, to conclude, for good ideas and true innovation, we need human interaction, conflict, argument, and debate. But most important is that we need to have a dream such that we can continue to explore and discover. So let's work together to build an innovative culture on digitization. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vincent, for I think this rather mind-provoking presentation, where no doubt the future is there. And in Hong Kong, you have a general concept of smart city, which integrates all aspects of life, so to say. And it's impressive to see how you can use these technologies in the service of prevention, which exactly is the challenge that we have in front of us. So thank you very much. I'm sure there will be lots of questions for you in the discussion round. But thank you for now. And with this, I would like to introduce the next speaker, is Dr. Marco Meyer, who is Managing Director at Tawny, Germany. And in your company, you have taken a very special focus on the topic that we are addressing today. And I'm sure that this also will cause a lot of interest. So please, Marco, the floor is yours. And thank you for joining us.
So now you can hear me, right? Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm gonna share the screen. Okay, now you should see the slides. Thanks very much for having me. I'm happy to give you some insights on what we're doing in the area of emotion AI and especially how that might help to create more empathic, more healthy and safer work environments. My name is Marco. I'm the CTO at Tawny. My background is in computer science and especially effective computing. And yeah, thanks for having me here. Let's start with the typical situation we have right now. So we're developing all kinds of smart, intelligent systems. We're trying to do things like predictive maintenance in factories and in several environments where we deal with machines, robots, and so on. And most of the time, this kind of predictive maintenance is based on data you get from the machines. So you have all kinds of sensors, you have all kinds of data from these machines, and you can develop some kind of smart algorithms to predict when they might fail, when you might have to do some intervention and so on. The problem usually is that this works as long as you're just dealing with machines, and it gets super complicated the moment an actual human being enters that system. And in many situations, we have actually human beings as part of the process or of a certain work environment. So we kind of need a way how to deal with these human beings. And this is especially hard for machines because human beings are very hard to understand for a machine. They behave in strange ways and it's hard to measure what's actually going on with this human being. So the idea is, can we somehow enable machines to better understand us human beings, to be able to better adapt to our needs, to our preferences, to cope with our requirements in a certain situation. And this is kind of the idea of a field that's called effective computing. This field deals with the development of IT systems and devices that to some extent can recognize, interpret, process, and maybe even simulate human affects and emotions. So you already can see that this is a field that spans different disciplines, from computer science to psychology to cognitive science. And it's also a relatively young field. So the term has been called in 1997, which is relatively recent for a research field. And the idea actually is, can we enable machines to understand human beings, to recognize in what state they are, and then to adapt their behavior accordingly? How does this work? The typical approach, or I'd say the most often used approach, is based on computer vision. So you're using a camera, which allows you to observe a human being, and especially you're often interested in the face, because our human faces actually have the function or this possibility to express emotional states. It's a way how we human beings amongst each other communicate and send information back and forth. So the idea is, can we enable machines to also understand these facial expressions? This is the idea of coding facial expressions and categorizing them is relatively old. One of the first ones was Paul Ekman, to define a set of culturally independent facial expressions that typically correlate to some kind of emotion or inner state. These are expressions like, for example, happiness, surprise, anger, disappointment, sadness, and yeah, this is a basic way how to identify these kinds of emotions. This approach works and has improved in how good it works in the last years because of the advances we made in the areas of artificial intelligence, and especially machine learning and computer vision. So especially with the advent of deep learning techniques, we're now able to actually like analyze these raw unstructured data streams like videos and images, and actually infer these kinds of information, like the facial expressions we see. This is like the most basic approach, going for facial expressions and the actions that happen in a face. We at Tony are trying to take this some steps further, because people do not express all their like states just through facial expressions. Especially one good example is the idea of a poker face, where you do not show much movement in your face, but maybe within you're kind of like stressed or really excited or aroused, but you do not see it in the facial expressions, but you see it, for example, in your heart rate. So what we're doing is a technique that allows us, just using a camera, to make some estimations of a user's heart rate. We can do this by, for example, observing the color changes of the skin in the face. The skin color changes whenever blood flows through your face. So we can observe this with the camera and infer some information about the heart rate, which again then allows us to infer if a person is more relaxed or more aroused in a certain situation. So now we have already 2 data points. We can combine this with the facial expression and get a much clearer picture about the state of this user. Of course, we can also combine this information with other signals, such as audio signals. For example, when someone is speaking, it's relatively straightforward to infer if someone is relatively relaxed or is relatively stressed, or maybe even angry when speaking. So this can be another source of information for dealing with the affective state. And last but not least, if you have a scenario where you might also put some sensors on the body of a human being, you of course can, for example, get a much better heart rate measurement. You might be able to get some information about skin conductance, which usually changes with the amount of stress you're experiencing. And you can collect all kinds of data directly from the body. So these are different sources of data you can use. As I said before, the one we're using most often is the video-based approach, because it is the one that is the easiest to deploy, because you do not have to attach anything to the human. You can just put a camera in the environment and do some analysis of the human being. So this was a rough overview of how the emotional AI approaches work from a technical point of view. But what are possible applications of these kinds of techniques? One area we're actively working in, and which is very interesting for us, and I think is one of the things that fits best to this event here, is the idea of employee experience, workplace environments, screen work, remote work, the whole idea of what actually is the future of work. How will we work in the future? And I think in like the last 1.5 years during the pandemic, we've gotten a like quite clearer picture of where we're heading to, and definitely there's going to be an increased amount of remote work, which also kind of means that people might be more isolated, they might be more on their own. You do not have the interaction with the colleagues where you might have some ways to like correct certain tendencies that might lead to poor health or less well-being. And the idea in this case is to introduce a kind of quantified self approach, which you might be used to when doing sports, for example, also to the work environment. So the most simplest approach would be for a worker to just be able to kind of track themselves, get some analysis on their like concentration levels, stress levels, things like that, to be able to like get signals if maybe someone is on the way to getting overburdened, maybe burned out in the longer run, turning towards some things like depression, which might be like a very gradual thing happening, not even noticeable, but what you can probably catch if you have a kind of continuous tracking. For example, just for yourself as a worker, to better understand yourself and your work behavior. A second area, of course, is all kinds of devices we're interacting with, and one of the most prominent ones probably is the car. We're still driving at the moment. We're not there yet with the autonomous driving. And this, of course, means that the state of a driver is very interesting. So you can infer, we've seen this in the previous talk, the drowsiness, for example. You might also be interested in the level of angriness a driver might experience, and you might adapt systems in the car accordingly to make the whole experience safer and more comfortable. Another very interesting area of application is education and training. We've done several things in this area because the idea or the vision kind of is to be able to dynamically adapt the load or the education material to the individual. So everyone is a bit different. You might also have different like performances on different days. If an intelligent training or education system can recognize your current load, your stress level, if you can understand what is being said, or if you need some repetition, or you need to be the material to be presented slower or maybe faster, we can really adapt how we educate people to the individual. And of course, again, this is a topic that is even more relevant during the pandemic, where we have lots of remote teaching, people not being in the same classroom. So this makes a lot of sense to have some better understanding of individuals, even if they are just taking part in a class remotely. Maybe a last area of application I'd like to mention is the interaction with robots, or cobots, as you might call them. We have an actual project there where we are working with a workshop for handicapped people. So they have different handicaps. And this workshop is aiming to enable them to take part in working and to make some money and have a fulfilling work life as well, even though they have some handicaps. And this is achieved, for example, by there being a robot that helps them with certain tasks. And our part in these kinds of scenarios is, again, to try to recognize the state that person is in. Is the person stressed? Is the person maybe confused by the behavior of the robot? Does the robot act too fast or too slow? Things like that, in order to be able to adapt how this robot behaves and to better adapt it to the needs and the preferences of this actual human being. In that regard, maybe getting back to the emotion theories, I've talked in the beginning about things like happiness, angriness, surprise, and so on. But there are many different ways how to describe different affective states of a human being. And one thing we're very interested in is the theory of flow. Flow is a psychological concept. It's relatively old and describes in a way how you're able to deal with a certain situation you're facing. And for example, it can be described as the balance or imbalance of your skills regarding the challenge you're facing at a certain moment. So if you have very high skills and a not really challenging situation, you might get bored. On the other hand, if your skills are actually too low for the challenge you're facing, this will lead to you being stressed, maybe overburdened, maybe even burning out in the longer run. What you actually want to achieve is this kind of middle ground where these two things are in balance. And this usually is a kind of prerequisite to get to a state that's called flow. Flow is a state where you kind of forget everything around you. You're totally focused on your task. You're usually also very good at the task, and it is a very fulfilling state because you're very productive. The problem with flow usually is that you only can kind of know if someone was in flow or not after the fact by doing some questionnaires. What we're trying to develop is a system to automatically recognize this state of flow. So whenever a person is in this state, so very productive, very focused, we try then to automatically, for example, disable certain notifications to not like break up this state of flow, but to keep people in this state and in the longer run, make them more productive and at the same time happier. So you might wonder about the topics of privacy and ethical guidelines, and it is absolutely important to be very clear that this technology, emotional AI, of course, is ambivalent. You might use it for things that you should not use it for, but on the other hand, we're very certain that there is a lot of potential to use it in a way that actually improves the way how we human beings work together with machines and digital applications and things like that. And a core part of this is that when developing such applications, you always have to take into account the data protection and privacy requirements of the people that actually will use this application. And there are several things you can do. Usually one important thing is to make it very transparent and also controllable for the person to adjust whom they share their state with. And also there are some ways how to, for example, analyze a human being without, for example, recording an actual video. So what we do often is to do the analysis directly on a device, to not record any video, to not transfer the video anywhere. It's just analyzed on device, and the only thing that's communicated, for example, to a system is a very abstracted and anonymized analysis result of the current state. I'm going with this a bit. So you also might wonder how mature is the technology. If we regard this typical hype cycle, you might know, emotional AI actually is like in this first part, in the beginning, getting to the first peak. So we're like still in the very early days of that technology. That is also what we experience. So there is lots of exploration, lots of trying things, trying to find out where this technology fits in, where it does not fit in. And this is something we're doing at the moment. And actually, this is something we're also are always looking for partners, because we're a technology company. We're creating this technology, but there's, of course, the other piece is the area of application, and there we need the experience of actual these companies that, for example, want to use this kind of technology for their employees or for certain applications. So we're usually trying to create some kind of partnerships or cooperation projects where we can explore the applicability of this technology for certain areas. So yeah, if some of you are interested in that, feel free to contact us. And yeah, that's it as a brief overview of emotional AI and potential applications. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the discussion later on.
Thank you very much, Marco. What I find so fascinating with your project is that not just machines have difficulties in understanding people, also people have problems to understand other people. And that we in general are working in prevention with very standardized approaches to everything. Our rules and regulations are all standardized. They don't take into consideration neither height or weight or other characteristics of a person or the state of mind. And I think that exactly the latter with the pandemic is shown to be of utmost importance. And mental health issues and burnout issues are really on the top of the agenda, of the health agenda. So that we try to introduce some more individualized approaches to prevention, and especially to predictive prevention, because what you're doing is try to help to avoid issues to develop, but also more individualized in terms of the performance of individuals, the understanding of individuals, the intellectual capacity. And I think the same is exactly for any workplace where you have maybe one order, but it needs to be communicated in many ways to reach, the receiver, so to say, in the right. So I think this is really highly interesting, and also thanks to Lars Hoffman from Siemens who introduced our contact to your company, and I'm sure there is a lot of interest in partnering with you, because this is really the future in many areas, as you have mentioned. So, but with this, I would like to thank you, and we'll see you a bit later during the panel discussion. So now we go to the third session, which is about collaborative safety, another aspect of what Marco just talked about, and we hear from the country of the robots, the main producer of robotic technology and leading technology country, to Japan. And it's my great pleasure to give the floor to Dr. Toshihiro Fujita, who is the director of the Institute for Global Safety Promotion, the IGSAP in Japan. And please, Dr. Fujita, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for inviting me to the side event at the 22nd World Congress on Safety and Health at Work. It is my great pleasure to talk about collaborative safety that contributes to promote safety, health, and well-being. In Japan, with the government economic policies, digitalization has been accelerated by the leadership of the former Prime Minister Mr. Abe and the current Prime Minister Mr. Suga. Robotics, IoT, AI, artificial intelligence, and mobility technologies are the core of digitalization, have already utilized, and these innovations will change occupational safety, health, OSH environment dramatically. This chart shows the evolution of safety, showing that the transition occurs every 20 years. In 1980, when the robot was introduced to the manufacturing site, humans need to be very careful to avoid being hit by robot, and it was important to pay attention and caution. In the year 2000, various ISO and IEC safety standards were created to protect the people from robots. This method can ensure safety, but it is not always productive because the installation of guards are required. Nowadays, people and robots can smoothly work together with the emergence of ICT, and we decided to name it as collaborative safety. We call these three generations Safety 0.0, 1.0, and 2.0, and we are very confident that Safety 2.0 will be implemented in many applications all over the world in the very near future because it brings safety, health, and well-being to people. This slide is very easy to understand. A robot is showing as a lion, and as you can see, 40 years ago, people need to be very careful, and 20 years ago, the lion stayed inside the fence. The safety was secured, but the high productivity was not always achieved. As from now on, we can utilize collaborative safety to enable people and the lion communicate and work together through technical innovation. This collaborative safety will be applied not only in manufacturing site, but also in construction, agriculture, and healthcare to upgrade their OSH at work, where human, machine, and the environment will be digitally connected. In order to do so, because applications are very wide, some kind of guides or international standards should be created so that everyone can benefit. ACOS, Advisory Committee on Safety in IC in Geneva, is already working to write such draft of guide as it will be eventually change OSH environment drastically. In order to realize this, holistic approach is very important. This means that technology, people, and management and its leadership are combined with concept of collaborative safety under some international consensus accepted by the world. This is why Japan, as a first step, proposed to create and publish IC white paper called Safety in the Future to describe collaborative safety, and it was published in November 2020, and it is recognized as a good guide that explains future direction of technology. Some of the specific examples from IC white paper are shown in the next few slides. This page shows the history of the transition of safety using lion model in every 20 years, and also the importance of tripartite system showing the connection between human, machine, and the environment. Some of the outstanding state-of-the-art solutions to challenges in manufacturing site are shown by using AI technologies, utilization of collaborative robot, and digital twin. And these are the companies leading such innovation. In addition to manufacturing site, we can utilize wearable devices to maintain plant operations in outside field, or digital farming in the conventional agricultural field, or even in dangerous environments such as construction and civil engineering that will be explained in detail later. All the technical demonstrations here are directly linked to Vision Zero and also strongly related to SDGs of the United Nations together. In addition, 5.0 manufacturing is also an important field to implement Safety 2.0 because it aims for 5.0 as shown here. These are the list of the institute and the companies who wrote and contributed to the IC white paper. Today, because time is limited, would like to introduce only 4 specific examples that show how innovative things are being applied to realize the new OSH environment. 4 companies are Toyota, Mitsubishi Electric, IDEC, and Shimizu to show what they are aiming to do with the holistic approach. Very interesting example of Safety 2.0 implementation in construction industry will be presented by Mr. Kawata, Shimizu Corporation, who is the next speaker after my presentation. First, Toyota produces wide range of cars as shown here. Because of this wide variety, the production volume per model has been decreasing. This means that rather than aiming for complete automation as in the past, it is much more important to increase application of human-robot collaboration nowadays. Also, Japan is facing the aging population with low birth rate and diversified social needs. So it is essential to add value to human work and to realize human-centered way of thinking. Consequently, we need to create an environment where humans can work safely and in a state of well-being. I do not go into the detail of this slide because it is too technical, but this chart clearly shows that there are various styles of collaboration between human and robot, and we need to evolve them by introducing new technology. For example, as this chart, the stage of collaboration has just begun. By introducing a variety of technology to further evolve this, we will be able to increase productivity and at the same time achieving safety, health, and well-being. We believe co-evolution can be a very important keyword in future, and this can only be achieved through the use of technology. This is a big picture to go with technical innovation. Of course, not only just implementing new technology, Toyota has very good basic safety principles created by Mr. Eiji Toyoda in 1957. All Toyota workers pass through the safety gate every day to confirm and remind the principles of basic safety. In addition to that, Toyota President Mr. Akio Toyoda recently established the concept of producing happiness for all, in Japanese, mass production of happiness, as Toyota's mission. And also, Mr. Toyoda has been working on the Urban City project that will be built at the foot of Mount Fuji. This is an example of how people will evolve along with new technology in a new environment. So we are excited to see what the new future of safety, health, and well-being will look like through technological evolution. The second example is Mitsubishi Electric, a major Japanese electronics manufacturer. Mr. Miyata has been taking initiatives on the realization of safer environments through IoT, AI, and robot technologies. As described in IC white paper, which was created with the strong support of Mitsubishi Electric, the new safety in the future can only be realized by implementation of this concept. An example is shown here. The current technology of safety 1.0 in the cell production with robot is safe and highly productive. However, for the production in the future, we can expect to see a system in which people and robot collaborate with each other using safety 2.0 for more flexibility with safety and well-being. In fact, Mitsubishi has already started to implement the various technology for realizing collaboration to make operators feel safer and more comfortable. Collaborative work and interactive systems that protect operators from being hit by robot and also providing intuitive teaching. In addition, using AI technologies, preparation can be simplified and setup work becomes 60% easier for people by MySuite implementation. We are sure that this technology will completely revolutionize the OSH of working environment. The last example is from IDEC Corporation. Mr. Akamatsu, the senior executive officer for manufacturing, implemented the Vision Zero mindset in their factory and registered for the Vision Zero campaign as the first company from Japan. They obtained ISO 45001 certification while spreading this Vision Zero mindset to many factories. As a result, they found that this laser chart has become better and better with the experience and lessons learned. Safety and prevention culture is being steadily fostered in the management of the company. These IDEC efforts including the creation of team well-being when COVID-19 pandemic hit the world 2020, along with the creation of self-check tool are introduced on the ISA web page, and they continue to work on various activities based on the Vision Zero mindset. In addition to such leadership by management, Mr. Akamatsu is trying to utilize the innovative technology by incorporating Safety 2.0 in logistics center. This video will help you discover the possible solution that Safety 2.0 can bring to various environments. This is the current stage that operators need to carry goods by themselves. To improve this, they started to use new technology to change the working environment. The next stage is that autonomous mobile robot can carry these goods by taking over operators' work. In order to ensure that operators can work safely even in such environment, there are warning lights, red color warning together with direction lighting, notifying the operator that mobile robot is coming, and sensors to detect operators to avoid crash and collision, and other devices are installed on mobile robot to make operators can work safely with a sense of anshin, a Japanese concept that is equivalent to well-being. And moreover, a promising technology such as wireless controlled remote emergency stop switch system is utilized for the first time. People can stop robot remotely, and this is remote stopping will be an essential action in near future because the trend of mobility is evolving in many industrial applications. These implementations of new technologies reveal that improvement of working style will be possible and dramatic change will be brought. We believe these innovations will absolutely change OSHA environment. In conclusion, as I described the case study of Toyota, Mitsubishi, and IDEC, the holistic approach that integrated technology, human, resource management with some new standard and rules will create the new OSHA environment in which IEC white paper exactly state. I'd like to emphasize that this holistic approach is now starting to be put into practice in Japan. Well, let me have a few moments to inform you about the second Vision Zero Summit and the related side event scheduled for tomorrow. Following the first Vision Zero Summit in Helsinki, we proudly announced that the second Vision Zero Summit will be hosted by Japan on May 2022. The summit theme is redefining safety, health, and well-being for the new normal. With due consideration of the recent pandemic, we are planning to hold it online in principle. The summit is a 3-day program starting 3 p.m. Japanese Standard Time, where 5 to 6 sessions will be held each day. The summit honorably present 16 excellent session chairs and over 150 splendid speakers taking a productive approach to addressing many exciting topics, ranging from the practical implementation of Vision Zero at company level to safer global supply chain and fostering OSH professionals and business leaders through education. Forefront topics like leading Vision Zero indicators, robotics, collaborative safety to mobility, AI, ICT, and digitalization will be discussed. Actual implementation of company would be introduced from the economic sectors such as manufacturing, construction, and agriculture. And recent topics of interest, hygiene, health, and COVID-19 would be also noteworthy. Hot topics such as well-being, human factors, and SDGs are the field of growing attention and received recent years. We have more practical topics like international standardization and national Vision Zero strategies and programs, and much more. Participants will be able to join this outstanding event via the Vision Zero Summit Japan 2022 meeting platform, where you can select your personal menu of interesting sessions and participate in online discussion. Please join us Vision Zero Summit side event tomorrow, that we will explain the detail of this event. I hope many of you have interest in the Vision Zero Summit and looking forward to seeing you then. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fujita, not only for a very interesting presentation about the concept of collaborative safety that we already have seen throughout this event is of the utmost importance as digitalization enters into all aspects of work life, and we no longer have the traditional distance between robots or cobots and people. But you also already have introduced, there will be another speaker from Japan who will illustrate some of the principles and examples you have given further from the construction sector. I'm very pleased to give the floor now to Mr. Kawata from Shimizu, a major construction company in Japan. So please, Mr. Kawata, the floor is yours.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. My name is Takashi Kawata from Shimizu Corporation. I would like to present today introduction of construction systems that improve production and safety. First of all, I'd like to explain about workers' compensation fatalities in Japan, UK, and US. The bar graph on the left side shows the workers' compensation fatalities per 100,000 workers for the UK, US, and Japan, and it respectively from 2006 to 2018. The UK's fatalities rate was exceptionally low in 2006, dropping to 0.4 in 2015. However, that value has risen to 0.8 in 2018. The value in Japan has been decreasing year by year, albeit slowly. On the other hand, that of the US has been increasing year by year. By the way, you can see this trend in the line graph on the right side. Now I will explain the trend in the number of occupational fatalities in Japan. The blue line represents all industry, the red line represents the construction industry, and the green chart represents the number of fatalities in tunnel construction. In 2020, there were 802 casualties in all industries and 258 in the construction industry, accounting for more than 30% of the total. In addition, the number of fatalities in the past 30 years has decreased to about 1/3, and for 2009 to 2017, it shows very gradual or no decrease in trend. But the trend for 2017 to 2020 shows decreased. The key to improve the productivity in construction industry is the promotion of I-construction, which collaboration with industry, government, and academia. To improve the productivity in construction industry, as well as creating a safe and attractive work site, we are now trying to address the labor shortage by introducing I-construction and Safety 2.0, which includes collaborative safety. This is an overall view of Shimizu Smart Tunnel in Mountain Tunnel, which utilizes the approach of Safety 2.0 to increase safety within the tunnel. The aim is by acquiring and analyze comprehensive digital data with the tunnel in order to make risk prediction from subjectively to objectively. Detail of Shimizu Smart Tunnel of the overall connection to digital platform were shown here. By installing sensor and positioning tag at the tunnel face, workers and machinery, various information can be acquired and transmitted. Seeing is believing. Please looking at later slides and videos. In order to achieve Safety 2.0, a combination of human and heavy equipment position management systems, warning and lighting control systems, heavy equipment information transmission systems, and heavy equipment parameter surveillance camera systems are used to reduce the risk of accidents involving contact between people and heavy equipment in the shading area during shading operations. Let's take a look at each element of technology. The marking work in tunnel excavation is carried out in a confined space with multiple heavy machines working efficient together. In the unlikely event that people come into contact with heavy machinery during the marking operation, it could lead to a serious accident. We have introduced a safety management method based on the cooperative safety of people and heavy machinery. It says Safety 2.0, and we could get the Safety 2.0 certification March 2020. The Takimura Tunnel was the first tunnel in Japan to be certified for Safety 2.0 in the construction industry. This video shows safety management in action at the Takimura Tunnel. As you can see, when a person approaches the vehicle, the lights and alerts both the driver and the person in the vehicle of the danger. It is necessary that the data integration between worker and the machinery, where supportive protective system can be utilized in order to safety 2.0, comes through at the technical field of construction. In order to incorporate safety 2.0 to construction industry, workshop with expert and survey of safety awareness were carried out, and construction safety teaching material were prepared. We have been thinking about that the increase of safety consciousness can widely be known by a textbook or easy to understand like manga. And this one is a sample of manga based on the tunnel construction. It's about a hero who overcame many hardships during construction, and various experience makes him mature. We conducted survey on items 1 to 10 to evaluate the effectiveness of safety 2.0. Here are the results. The blue line presents before safety 2.0, and the orange line represents after. The results show that the introduction of safety 2.0 has increased awareness in all areas. Next, I will explain on Shimizu Smart Site application on building construction and architecture. Shimizu Smart Site is a collaboration of automated robots equipped with AI and BIM, which is a 3D building model. The target is to appeal construction sector to young generation by improving productivity, reducing repetitive works, and ensure safety and better welfare. Currently, there are some robots developed so far and shall be introduced on the next videos. This video shows two overall components of Shimizu Smart Site that were utilized in building site. The horizontal slide crane named extra electric steel beams. Here is a welding robot. On the floor below, these are the transportation robots called robot carrier. The material are carried onto the robot body. They grab a base, put glue on it, set it according to the information, how much height required, and adjust it. Left picture shows a manual welding, and the right video is a robot welder. Robot welder can work all day long and not get tired. They can sense the shape of the group at first. Then they decide how to weld, simulating the welding path by themselves. Then cleaning up the edge of the welding wire before starting, initiating the work as planned. They sense the shape of the group after every single welding pass. And they adjust their plan according to actual welding size. They repeat it until complete. You can see a beautiful welding face. It's because they never shake the torch while working. Here is rubber body. Let me show you how a construction worker installed a setting board. This is not tall, but he supports gypsum boards with his head and left hand. He keeps the screws in his mouth and he used an electric drill. On the other hand, rubber body without complaint can work safely and quickly. This is the edge of the setting board, both the frame and the boundary. The other hand for the board bisection action places it to the right place without any gaps. Screwing follows without a confliction of the two arms, then the material table goes down after complete. They move to the next position. Material table goes up. Once they arrive at the set to the position without triggers, they start sensing again. Holding the next setting board puts the screw in, repeating until they finish the work. Lastly, please take a look at this photo. This picture was taken during the TBM breakthrough ceremony at a site in Malaysia, where I was a project manager. As you can see, everyone has a big smile on their face, having completed their work. The staff and workers shared the joy of the TBM breakthrough together. Also, there were many difficulties and challenges prior to the breakthrough, but we were able to share the sense of accomplishment together with our colleagues who had a common goal in their work. There may be individual differences, but I believe that each person felt well-being in these work situations. It is an unforgettable memory for me as well. I hope many people involved in the construction industry will cooperate with each other to create safe and happy workplaces and accumulate experiences of well-being with smiles. Let's do our best together. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Kawata, for this impressive presentation from a sector that in prevention does not have a very good name, no? The construction sector, because it's one of the riskiest, the most dangerous and most demanding, also physically demanding workplaces. And tunnel work belongs to, I think, the top of the list, so to say. So it's truly impressive to see how you at Shimizu have done your utmost by using this digital technology to make work safer and make work more attractive. And I think this is another important message from your presentation, that we need to make workplaces and work, also in physically and demanding work, more attractive for young people to work in. And I think your approach is a very promising one indeed. The smart site concept of construction is still breathtaking, and I know that you are planning to organize a visit to this smart site for the participants that will be physically present at the Vision Zero Summit Japan 2022, and so it will be hopefully an opportunity to see this firsthand. So, but thank you both, Dr. Fujita and Mr. Kawata, for your presentations, which were nicely interlinked and illustrated the need and the perspective of having an integrated approach to the combination of technology and people. And now we are approaching the fourth topic of our side event today, and this is how to reduce the risk and optimize the opportunities of digitalization for safer, healthier, and better well-being at work. And that is actually the topic of our event. So these are the most critical topics to be addressed, and therefore we're very pleased to have with us today Pernille Tau, who is the department manager at Human House Leadership in OHS, the largest Bosch consultancy in Denmark, and who has a very detailed insight in exactly the impact of that transition process that is taking place in companies and how to exactly try to maximize the positive sides and reduce the negative sides. So we look very much forward to your presentation and your concepts now. What could be a more strategic response to the challenges that many companies are facing? So Pernille, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Hans Horst, and welcome to all the listeners. I'm very happy to be invited to this event. I will share my screen with you. And in the meantime, I will tell you that what I have prepared for today is actually to share some thoughts, some practical examples on how to reduce the risks and also optimize the benefits of the digitalization in relation to health and safety. I think that my main point for today is that all companies and organizations might need a more proactive approach to health and safety when dealing with digitalization. And in order to illustrate my theme, I would like to quote Mr. Elbert Hubbard. "The world is moving so fast these days that the man who says it cannot be done is generally interrupted by somebody doing it." And I think this is indeed true when we talk about digitalization, as also illustrated by the previous speakers. But maybe the health and safety in relation to digitalization is not moving as fast as the digitalization process. In my company, Human House, we experience that health and safety actions are often based on procedures and legislation that is constructed from previous learnings, that is from the past. And this is, you could say, in its nature, a reactive way of thinking. What we might have learned from the COVID-19 situation is that it has certainly tested our prevention systems. It has forced us to think in a more proactive way, to find solutions to health and safety as we go along. And maybe we should all think about this and use this proactive way of thinking when we are dealing also with digitalization, how to use the upcoming knowledge that digitalization provides for us to make some more relevant and proactive health and safety strategies. So we need to be aware, of course, both of the benefits of digitalization as illustrated by the fine speakers before me, but we also need to have an eye on the risks when it comes to health and safety that digitalization presents. I think that companies, organizations, private and public, must lead the way. The world is moving so fast, so we cannot always wait for the legislation to tell us what to do. We cannot use the past procedures always. We need to think about what are we seeing in our workplaces in relation to digitalization, and then adapt our health and safety strategies according to that. Maybe just to give you listeners an overview of when we are talking about digitalization, what kinds of topics are we talking about? Again, you have heard some very fine examples, but this is maybe an overview that you can use in your own organization to think about what type of digitalization processes and products do we actually have in our own company or workplace. So we have the one cluster of themes that we could call advanced robotics and artificial intelligence. This is the human-machine collaboration that we have been talking about earlier today, with fine examples from both Hong Kong and Japan. And it includes, of course, the whole idea of smart robots that are mobile and collaborative. We have seen automatic welding machines. We've been talking about the Safety 2.0. We are talking about exoskeletons that are robots that you can put on your body in order to reduce heavy workloads and reduce pain and musculoskeletal disorders. We've been talking about big data, artificial intelligence, and algorithms that create new knowledge to be used in the service of health and safety and prevention. Smart personal protective equipment, smart helmets, for example, as we heard about. Then there is a whole area of virtual reality and augmented reality that gives us the opportunity to work more proactively with the health and safety. And in addition, the additive manufacturing, 3D printing, affective computing, as introduced by Tony, are also creating new opportunities. And then we have the other group of themes related to digitalization, which is the flexible work or the teleworking, as we heard from Prevent, which allows us to have more flexible working with the widespread connectivity, the IT connectivity, the mobile digital devices, and the online platforms that allows for more atypical jobs that we'll be hearing about as well. So what should we consider as health and safety professionals in all areas of the workplace? I think we have already heard a lot about the opportunities that digitalization can create for health and safety, both in terms of course, from a business perspective, the increased productivity, but also the increased flexibility, allowing for maybe better work-life balances, the autonomy leading to more meaningful jobs. And also diversity is a benefit of digitalization in the sense that we can get more disabled people, elderly people to stay longer in the workplace, maybe also contributing to the problem of not having a large enough workforce in many countries. We have seen that it is a huge opportunity to raise our prevention levels by having the machine-human collaboration, so we can avoid the most dangerous situations, we can avoid the most repetitive tasks, and we can make maybe more evidence-based prevention strategies based on big data and the analysis of behavior. We have also seen, also in our company, that digitalization allows for a more efficient training in health and safety, because we are able to reach workers in a new way with the IT developed educational programs. And we are also able to make more advanced risk assessment programs based on the more advanced data that we have. So I think that if we can succeed in having a co-evolution in the future, as mentioned by Japan, and moving on to the Safety 2.0 way of thinking, also presented in the white paper, we have a lot of opportunities for increasing the prevention level in relation to health and safety. But we need to be all aware of the challenges. As mentioned by Prevent, of course, there are some ergonomic challenges that we need to consider with the teleworking, with the strains on the body from the sedentary work. There are some new safety risks in the collaboration between human and machine, in human and robots. There are new risks that we need to analyze and to implement action plans to avoid. Then, of course, there is a whole area of cybersecurity, of personal data that all companies and organizations must address in relation to digitalization. But what we unfortunately also see a lot, and which is rising in the companies that we work with, is the mental well-being in relation to digitalization. The increase of the work-related stress. This could be from working alone with the teleworking, but it could also be that some digitalization processes, such as implementing new IT systems, can increase the performance pressures, and it can also increase the work complexity because our work tasks are getting increasingly more complex, maybe when we have to deal with the new IT solutions. We need to be aware of the social interaction factor of this. Are we sure that we take care of the collaboration, both the professional, but also the social and personal collaboration between workers, employees, the contact between managers and employees when we implement the new digitalization strategies? And then, as I mentioned before, we have these totally new forms of work where we see many small independent companies where with unclear employment status and who is actually regulating the health and safety of these new types of works, and how are you supposed to be a manager looking after the mental health and the well-being in these atypical types of work. So many benefits, but in order to optimize the benefits, the health and safety benefits of digitalization, we need to be aware that we sway the balance towards the benefits in the sense that we plan, implement, and regulate the technology in an ethical and a healthy and safe way. And maybe a way to think about it is to look at these different prevention levels. And while I present the different stages in this, you can reflect on your own as a listener on where is your organization actually placed on these different levels of prevention. If we look at the lower stage, the passive level, I will use the example of implementing a new IT system to illustrate the different stages, because I think this is something we all can relate to. If we implement a new IT system and we are at the passive level, we do not care and we do not talk about what kind of effects will this IT system implementation have on our health and safety in the company. So this is not something we are discussing. This is not something we are considering. If we are, as a company organization, at the reactive level, this means that we only react in our organization if implementing the IT system means that we get some trouble in some departments. So, for example, if we get some trouble with collaboration in a team that are using the new IT system, or we get some stress sick leaves in a team because of implementing the new IT system. So this is in its nature a reactive way of acting if we see any health and safety effects from implementing this new IT system. If we are at the active level, we try to think about and discuss both the pros and cons with relation to health and safety if we implement a new system. And just by talking about it, this is already a step from being reactive to being active. We try to anticipate some effects on employee health and safety by discussing pros and cons. But my point is that if we are to maximize the benefits, we need to move up to the proactive level. And at this level, we think about health and safety implications of implementing a new IT system before we implement the system. So we try to make a risk assessment and also to consider the benefits before we implement the system by talking to managers, talking to employees about what possible health and safety effects will this have, both positive and maybe more negative effects. And if we move up to the highest level of prevention, at least when we have the Vision Zero way of thinking, we use our digitalization in the service of prevention, so that, of course, we implement digitalization for business purposes, but we also implement digitalization as a separate strategy to increase health and safety for our leaders and our employees. We have seen some fine examples of this today. So how can we implement digitalization? Because it is a part of our business strategy to have healthy and safe workers. So please reflect on where is your organization on these stages. So if you, as a company or organization, would like to work more proactively to move up the prevention ladder, Vision Zero offers an approach that you can use, the 7 golden rules that you can apply also for digitalization. And the first rule is to take leadership. This means that we need to ensure that our managers, not just our health and safety managers, but our line managers in general, think about how digitalization will affect health and safety in your workplace. So we need managers to demonstrate the commitment that they are aware of health and safety, positive and negative effects of digitalization. Then we need to identify the health and safety risks, as I mentioned before. So before implementing a digitalization strategy, what kind of effects could that have on health and safety? And please remember also to include well-being, effects on possible stress issues, work complexity issues, collaboration issues, and so on. Then I propose, according to the golden rules, number 3, to define some targets, to define some leading indicators for health and safety that reflects what you want to obtain on digitalization. For example, you could measure how many risk assessments have we done before implementing new IT systems. This could be one leading indicator. Or how many managers have we educated in the benefits and challenges in relation to health and safety before we implement new IT systems, for example. Then in rule 4, we need to ensure a safe and healthy system. And by that we mean, for example, have we thought about all the ethical implications of implementing new IT systems or other types of digitalization? Tony was talking also about this, that of course we need to discuss the ethical implications. And maybe we need in the companies to have a more profound ethical framework that deals with the fast-moving pace of digitalization. Then rule 5, to ensure safety and health in machines, equipments, and workplaces, prevention through design. This is how do we think already when designing, planning, and implementing a new machinery. How can digitalization be used to increase health and safety levels in the companies and workplaces? Rule number 6, improve qualifications. This is really important. Therefore, I want to repeat myself by saying we need to educate managers and employees in the different aspects of health and safety that is related to digitalization. So we cannot assume that everyone knows all the aspects of, for example, well-being effects of implementing digitalization. So we need to develop OSH competences in line managers, employees, and of course also health and safety professionals. And finally, invest in people. Employees are the experts. Employees are the best to maybe anticipate what a certain kind of digitalization will mean for their own work tasks. So please remember always to involve employees in design and implementation of digitalization processes and have an honest and open discussion about the possible health and safety effects. The world is moving fast, so maybe nobody is an expert on what the consequences will be, or maybe we are all experts, and this is why employees should be involved. This is, I think, what the time allows me to say, so thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much indeed, Pernille, for this excellent strategic approach to digitalization and the, I think, very interesting combination with the 7 golden rules, which are really universal tools, almost like a Swiss knife for occupational safety and health, and also with the adaptations that you have introduced, I think fit very well as a tool for managing also a safe and healthy digitalization process. So now I have the pleasure to give the floor to our last speaker. This is Annick Starren. Annick is a project manager at the European Agency for Safety and Health at Work, a tripartite institution of the European Union, based in Bilbao, Spain. And the agency is very much involved in analyzing new developments as regards workplaces, and carries out comprehensive surveys in measuring also how prevention systems and prevention management systems function at work. And therefore, we look very much forward to listen to which results of research and good practices Annick will be able to share with us today. So, Annick, you have the floor.
Hi, welcome. Thank you. My name is Annick Starren, and I will do the next presentation on digitalization for prevention, managing OSH risk as a consequence of digitalization. I work for the European Agency of Safety and Health at Work. I think most of you probably know the agency. We are set up in 1994, 26 years now ago in Bilbao. And we are responsible for the collection, analysis, and dissemination of relevant information to serve the needs of those involved in safety and healthy at work. So what we don't do, we don't write legislation, we don't inspect workplaces or enforce the law, but we produce a lot of information, relevant information, and we share information, and we try to produce user-friendly tools, share good practices, and we do networking around Europe. To do this, we have 5 priority areas, and one of those is the foresight that is focused on anticipating change. The other priority area is facts and figures. We also do raising awareness via our campaigns, and we do produce tools for OSH management. We do networking, and with these 5 priority areas, of course, we also focus on the topic of technology and digitalization, new technology and digitalization. For example, if you look at anticipating change, it's quite obvious that digitalization is a driver of workplace change. Yeah, ICT influences what jobs there are, what tasks humans will do, in what sectors of industries people work, and how people perceive work. And also it's said that it's been seen that new kind of occupations will exist, new kind of jobs. And if you think about it, 65% of children entering now primary school will end up working in new jobs that don't yet exist. So that's a really interesting thing to talk about. So it's really a driver of workplace change. So if it's a driver of workplace change, we should think of the consequences for health and safety. To do that, we focus our anticipating change area on foresight work on digitalization. And this foresight study, this has been finished in 2019. Now we are one step further, we are producing more material in our OSH overview on digitalization. And this is what I will focus my presentation on. And next, we will use the output of this overview on digitalization and OSH for our Healthy Workplaces campaign that will start in 2023. And already there you can see that there is already information available that you can see on our website. So let me first start introduce by our activities related to the foresight study, looking forward of how the workplace will change by digitalization and what this means for OSH. To do this, we looked for key trends and drivers of change. And we looked very widely for changes. We looked at workforce demographics and other new development like the rise of the entrepreneur. We looked at globalization, and also, of course, we looked at new developments related to robotics, the Internet of Things, cyber security, and new communication networks. So we looked very broad to what could be key trends and drivers of change, what influenced the world of work, and so OSH. So just to give a quick view, it's interesting that we produced in those years 4 scenarios. They're all written down in our report, but what you can see, because of digitalization, there are more scenarios that you can think of. It could be that aspects go quite slowly, that we call the evolution scenario, that there is high support, high economic growth, but there's not so much governmental support, and there are other scenarios in which you think more of exploitation, that there are a lot of things changing, but it's not well managed by governance and not seen as very wishful by public attitudes. And these scenarios are written down in our report more extensively, but they all show us that digitalization will come and will change our workplaces, and so will change OSH. You see, there will be changing work patterns, there will be loss and changes of jobs, there will be more people that will be self-employed and working on online platform, there will be a change to employer-employee relationship, there will be economic risks, and also good things, people could be removed from dangerous environments, and probably there will be more work-related stress because of digitalization. The difference is how and when this all will happen, and I think we are already in the middle of it. When doing this foresight study, we also did a lot of a whole set of expert discussion papers, a series on the future of work, and you can see this also on our website. As you see, they're all topics that we have been looking at, and how could this topic, for example, exoskeletons or smart PPPs, what does this mean for OSH at the workplace? So now we will move on to our work from now. That is our OSH overview on digitalization. And based on what we seen on mechanisms and new developments from our foresight studies, we have defined 4 projects in our overview. 4 topics that we touch, and the first one is on advanced robotics and artificial intelligence-based system for automation. The second one is on new forms of worker management. I will go more deeply into that one. The third on digital platform work and what it means for OSH. The fourth one on digital systems for the monitoring and improvement of OSH, for example, watches or other wearables that you can use to improve OSH. And the second one on telework. So we now do studies on those 5 topics that will be input for the new campaign in 2023. It's just in the beginning, it's in progress, so we cannot show you many results, but it would be nice to show you some results. For example, if you look at robotics and artificial intelligence for automation of tasks, you can imagine that robotics, it removes people from hazardous environments. It has the potential to reduce need for workers to carry out dangerous tasks. There's increased automated prevention measures, and there's increased understanding of risk-taking behavior. But on the other hand, there are also psychosocial risks in relation to all this new human-machine interaction. There will be accidents as a result, and people have too much confidence in the artificial intelligence or in a robot, and there will be the fear of job replacements and job transformation, and all other kind of social aspects like working in isolation that can be challenges for this kind of new technology. When you look at the second project, new forms of worker management, you can, for example, think of people analytics. That's the use of digital tools or data and algorithms to measure, report, and understand and make prediction about worker performance. and also about gamification to use games in people's life for motivation, training, and recruitment. It's very interesting in that positive aspects, but we also have to think about what does this mean for occupational safety and health when people are continuously being monitored. And as you see, there are many people in organizations using it, but also there are a lot of mixed perception. And you can also imagine that with Corona, there has been even more now after pandemic use of this kind of monitoring tools for worker management. That could be a risk for OSH. For example, on the one side, it's nice. There are opportunities like OSH can be more. There can be more evidence-based prevention. There can be more tailored advice related to OSH. There can be more targeted OSH inspections. On the other hand, it feels like micromanagement, job control. It gives performance pressure. People feel they cannot take breaks as they used to do, and of course, it could be a threat to their privacy. And the impact of this could be on our mental health, MSDs, and cardiovascular disorders. So this is the second project. Then I go over to project 4. Like kind of e-watches that predict burnout or reduce stress, but also here workers fear surveillance and control. Just to give an idea, you can think of smartphone apps that give advice, smart glasses or drones in the construction, in the mining industry, e-textile technology, hard heads or safety glasses that provide information, smart watches, wearable devices, smartphone apps that assist in the case of accidents. There's a lot on the market here, but what does it actually mean for OSH? Are they all that good or not? And also here, when you're being monitored all the time, it's not easy. So there are many opportunities for enhancing OSH in this field, but there are also challenges. There's a lack of proven efficacy and availability of standards in many places. Also here, privacy is a challenge. And then you have the issue of control and over-reliance. People need to be in control, and if they can't, they feel to lose control, which could induce stress. On the other hand, other people like it and they rely too much on such new technology, which is not good on the other hand either. Good. Then I go to the last project. That's our telework and ICT-based mobile work project. That's about telework and remote work. As you see, the definition here is important to what remote work exactly is and what kind of types there are that we give attention on in our report. And of course, this has emerged a lot because of many reasons, and not in the least now after the pandemic. The question is how it will be, but we think it will stay. Here you see even before the pandemic that it's growing in most of the member states. It has been growing even before the pandemic, and of course in some member states it was already more common than in other member states. I will not go into depth in this topic right now, but I would like to show you this slide with some practical tips to make. We have OSH Wiki information, we have information, little fact sheets, we have OIRA tools that support with COVID-19 workplace risk assessment, and we have, for example, our NAPO. I hope you all have seen NAPO before. So we also have a new NAPO film made that's on home-based telework, and I put the YouTube link over there, and I hope that you can use it in your companies to have a nice way of promoting the importance of opportunities and challenges of telework. Okay, I'm now at the end of my presentation. As a kind of a conclusion overview, well, I think we just in our project have touched on a lot of challenges for us in relation to the, in principle, good development of digitalization. And they are very varied and they are in many aspects. And here I have a kind of an overview. It's in safety and ergonomics, it's in workplace OSH management, it's in the regulation, and not in the least, it's in work organization and psychosocial aspects. So there are many aspects that we'll take into account in our research. And this will have an impact on mental health and musculoskeletal diseases and cardiovascular diseases, incidents and accidents. So it's very important to take them along with all the new developments that are coming towards us. So as a second last slide, I would like to focus on how can we ensure safe, healthy and productive new ways of working. Well, let me say this is very preliminary because, as I said before, this is just the beginning of our research program. But what we already see is that the user-centered approach is very important, and OSH needs to be considered from the beginning together with all the engineers and the makers of the tools themselves. OSH needs to be part already from the beginning. Also, very important is that we have good risk assessments when this new technology is coming and is being implemented in our workplaces. And also these risk assessments tools should not be delegated to technology. It should be a good fit of a human-machine interaction. We cannot only let it happen by technology, but we need to be involved in it and have everybody involved and have good communication of what this kind of new technology means in our workplaces. So workers and managers, they should remain in command. And then we have also the issue of privacy. The need to collect worker data should be balanced again, the right of workers in privacy and their safety and health. And then transparency, worker participation and equal access is very important so that everybody knows and has control also of what is happening by the technology. Then information and training is important to all stakeholders, including designers, managers, workers, and their representatives. And the need to raise awareness at the policy and practice levels, both about the impact of especially these kind of intruding new forms of technology and what it means for OSH and in particular their mental health. Well, these are the recommendations or the tips that we would like to focus on at this moment. The coming 2 years, we are still working on in our projects, and we will include the results then in our Healthy Workplaces campaign in 2023, which is focused on safety and healthy work in the digital age. So for now, this presentation, thank you. I would like to pay attention again to the brochure on our work on our website. There are many publications there that you can find. For more information, you can also call me or my colleague Emmanuel Breu, who is activity coordinator of the whole package of digitalization projects. So thank you. And if there are any questions, well, maybe I can answer them later on in the panel discussion. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Annick, for sharing the agency's results of research and also of good practices. And we look forward to further insights into how the digital revolution will impact positively and negatively on workplaces, on working conditions and safety and health, and also to advice from the agency as regards how best to manage this process, which holds so many promises, but also, as every development, also some challenges that need to be managed appropriately. So with this, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure that we now have reached the final point on the agenda of our side event for the 22nd World Congress for Safety and Health at Work. And this is a roundtable discussion where we would like to go into depth with some of the points that have been raised. Unfortunately, not all of the speakers can be participating in that session because of other obligations. But I'm very sure that also with a reduced group, we'll be able to have an interesting discussion. So I welcome Pernille, I welcome Winston, Takashi, Marco, and Toshihiro. And well, there were so many, I think, interesting things brought forward by all of you. So let me first of all thank, oh, we have Annick here. Yeah, so it's nice that we all now are gathered for the panel discussion. And the first question I have, I think, is one that is general, but I would like to start with Winston. And this is about how to cultivate an innovative culture on digitalization in an organization. Now, it's kind of what also Pernille spoke a lot about, but it's obvious that we must ensure that digitalization does not happen like a thief at night. Suddenly it's there, and then we have to deal with the consequences. But it should be something that is really managed properly and prepared properly. And everybody should be involved. There are ethical principles and other aspects that were mentioned today. But if you are very, I think you are, as a country, as a city, you are most progressed in one of those that are most progressed, because you have this smart city approach and showed us all these aspects. So it would be really interesting to have your experiences, and then maybe others would like to contribute to this question. So how to really develop an innovative culture on digitalization in a company, in an organization. So Winston, if you could start, please. Vincent, please turn on your mic.
I think, thank you for your questions. Yeah, and developing an innovative culture is important. And I think at the organization level, it should be start from the top management commitment. We need to let the top management, they need to recognize the advantage of the digitizations, and also how the development of the new technology can help to enhance the work safety and also improve the productivity. And also, once they recognize the advantage, the top management also need to provide resources and budget for the development of the new technology in the organization. And also, I think that besides the top management, they take a top-down approach. We also need to create a bottom-up approach for the involvement of the frontline supervisors and the workforce in the process of the development of the new technology. Because usually the frontline supervisors and the workforce, they are involved in the daily operations. So they also can familiarize with the operation system, and also they know better the risk involved in the operations. So if the top management, they can create a mechanism or the system of consulting the frontline supervisors and the workforce in the process of the development of the new technology, then certainly if the top management can also empower the people to innovate, engage the people in the process, and also encourage them to participate. So with this empowerment, engagement, and the encouragement, and also with the top-down approach from the senior management commitment, and also with the bottom-up approach with the involvement of the frontline supervisors and the workforce, so it can help to create an innovative culture on the digitization.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody who would like to supplement on this? I think the principles of both top-down and bottom-up are in line with rule number 1 and 6.7 in the golden rules for Vision Zero. So no doubt top management really sets the tone and really needs to take responsibility. But what could be the hinders in this process? What is it that we really have to take into account in that process? Are there any lessons that you'd like to share? For example, from the practical implementation, Mr. Kawata, in your organization, when you introduced this new tool. So what was the success criteria for the people to follow it, both management and the employees? So how did you communicate? How did you manage to bring everybody on board in that process?
Thank you very much, Mr. Konkolsky. So I already explained my presentation. So it's very important to not only head office, also the management of people. So also we discuss with subcontractor, also the worker. So in that time, I already explained just manga is a site is what happened. So it is a textbook for how to improve the safety matter. So that manga also we make together, and also the opinion from worker and subcontractor head office. So together make that kind of the textbook. In that time, site is improve safety consciousness. That is very important.
Thank you. Yeah, I would love to spread the manga culture across the globe, because it's, I think, a very nice and different way of communicating. But I still think and it has conquered, I think, amongst the younger generations. But I still think it's a very Japanese way of communicating. But you're absolutely right.
Very difficult for the labor. The manga is very easy to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's absolutely fantastic. Pernille, you, Mark, would you like to comment? Mike, please.
Sorry, what a classical mistake. I'm sure that I should have learned that by now. No, what I was saying is that I think that in order to develop an innovative culture, we still need to ask the why question to management, and that is why health and safety is important, not just because it's the right thing to do, but that we start seeing health and safety as an investment instead of a cost. So it should be placed somewhere else in the balance sheets, because as long as we don't see health and safety as a strategic tool, as you were talking about in Japan, also how to attract employees and how to make sure that the smaller workforce, that we have a solution for this. So we need to connect it closer to the business strategies. That is to show that we need this development in digitalization in order to attract and retain the most important employees, for example. But in order to do that, I think my experience is that a lot of top management, but also line managers, are simply not educated enough to see that health and safety can be used as a strategic tool, and they are not educated enough to be able to discuss the benefits and the challenges of implementing digitalization. So from my perspective, education still needs a lot of education in the different management levels to be able to have a nuanced discussion on this. Because if we look at boards or at the CEO, CFO level and so on, we have experts in finance, in marketing, in business strategy and so on, but not very often do we see health and safety professionals in the top management groups that can maybe make the discussion a little bit more detailed. So I think from my perspective, this is a prerequisite.
Absolutely. I think this is for all developments related to improving safety, health, and well-being is really top management attention. The mindsets that we have discussed in another meeting about the Great Reset, that we need new metrics to measure also the economic part of it, and that we really need to have new incentives. So the message of the value of prevention is brought to the board tables, but also that investors and others demand it. But now we have had this 1.5 year of pandemic, and the work life has changed dramatically for almost everybody. Everybody has been affected, although you were a first responder or you had to work from home and others. So I wonder whether the agency, Annick, has already some feedback about expectations on how the pandemic, which influenced the working situation, as regards, for example, teleworking and so on, how this has impacted. Do you expect that, because you measure also with SNA, you measure the awareness and how safety and health prevention systems work, the management system, the roles of the different actors, as it has been raised, top management and the organization. What are your expectations? Because I personally hope, of course, that this increased attention to prevention due to the pandemic, everybody had to wear a mask and wash hands and keep a distance, that this raised awareness. And for employers, it's absolutely critical to observe these rules in order to be able to produce. Does the agency already have an idea about how this will impact, if this will impact positively, and as something that will stay with us, this increased attention to prevention, and also from management side, respect of the value of prevention? Do you already have something to share with us there?
Well, yes, of course, we have data. We have data on what happens in the specific sectors and what happens in the specific country, in the specific member states all over Europe. But nobody knows what will actually happen. You see, there'll be more flexibility, but also it leads to more challenges. For example, the concept of a workplace. How do you deal with that? Also, in the concept of how do you carry out risk assessments, and the concept of working time. And now we have these new initiatives in the right to disconnect. How does it really work? Of course, it's also together with the Commission. We see this as new challenges that arise, and for sure, I think there will be more flexibility, and everybody has seen now the opportunities, and that it's good for productivity and can be good for the workers, but also there will be new challenges that we have that we face.
Yeah, thank you, Annick. Yeah, it's definitely something that needs to be measured and observed, and interesting lessons to share. We have today, and Pernille did some very nice overviews of everything we have seen today. And I just want to come to you, Marco, because you have presented some of the more, let's say, exciting, a bit scary also, technology, because we don't like that our emotions are read by an algorithm. Sometimes we don't even know that our partners would like to read our emotions. So this is, of course, something we are a bit concerned about. But this whole idea of being able to more personalize, and take the individual's state of mind into consideration. This is absolutely critical, both in the day-to-day work, when you work in a team and you need to communicate well, when you work, especially, of course, if you work in hazardous situations. You need to know, is everybody fit to take his or her responsibilities? So I find really your project very, very exciting. And I just wondered, because it was not fully clear to me whether this is already used today, because you showed us this nice curve of the development of technology. So could you just share with us if this already is used, and what the lessons are so far from this new technology?
Of course. As I said in the talks, definitely the technology is in like very early stages. So we're trying to partner with different companies to explore potential applications. And this is something that's happening right now. So we have several pilot projects with larger corporations doing many, sometimes different kinds of projects regarding new work settings, remote work settings. We have some applications that as I mentioned, go into the direction of, somehow self-tracking for the employees to be more aware of their own stress levels, of their load they face during the workday, which is, as we've experienced, relatively important, especially in the remote work setting, because you're missing the corrective contact to your colleagues, which might say, oh, let's take a break, we should have a coffee, or you're looking a bit tired today, or whatever. At home, you're kind of for yourself, you're just don't get up as much, you don't take the breaks, and so on. And to make you aware of this already can be a good help. And then there's the next steps where we're trying to, in a more anonymized fashion, collect this data to also measure for the company if, for example, the stress levels for a whole department or for the whole company shift. Unfortunately, we were not quite there yet before the pandemic, because it would have been super interesting, to compare before and now the new situation. So, but nevertheless, so there's always going to be changes in the work environment, and being able to track how that affects people, we think would be very valuable. And this is, as I said, there are first projects in that direction, and I think we're definitely going into some of these will go into production probably the next year.
Oh, very interesting, because I think one of the messages we heard today is that digital technology is there to make also life easier, make life safer, take on board even heavy work tasks and others, and try to protect, make work safe. But the other side is the mental side of it, and this was touched also. What does it mean for our mental health? And mental health has really come to the forefront with the pandemic. And as you said, Marco, working at home, there's no social control, less social control, and therefore no support also, because the whole prevention systems are focused on a traditional workplace and not that you work remote. So I wondered if anybody of you, because we talk a lot about well-being as the key objective now. So we have added well-being to safety and health. We started with safety, then we added health, and now we have well-being, and so we have become more ambitious, but also because there are real problems out there. 80% of all the fatalities yearly, 2.8 million fatalities worldwide, are caused by health issues and not accidents or not safety issues. So it's important we look at health issues, but we also know that the mental state of a person, and we all know that when we become stressed to work because traffic has been difficult, or there have been discussions at home, or a difficult conversation with the school in the evening. So this can take our concentration, and also it affect our behavior. So I wondered if some of you would like to add to this discussion about well-being and the new technology. How do we ensure that digitalization really is in favor of not only reducing physical burdens, but also to improve and safeguard the mental side of it? Because I think all of you have spoken about well-being as one of the objectives. So maybe Dr. Fujita, you would like to add, because you're the one that has a high level of well-being right now. You can see that with the palm trees and the beach behind you. So, and I know this is something you have discussed a lot. You mentioned Anshin. So how do you implement Anshin together with digitalization in Japan?
Mr. Kongurutsugi, thank you very much. At first, when I heard the message from Vision Zero Mindset, aiming safety, health, and well-being, it is very impressive and new to me to consider the well-being on top of safety and health. But as you mentioned now, after the COVID-19, everybody need to, everybody started to think in the importance of well-being. And at the same time, the digitalization is, really coming to our industry. As discussed today, we call it the collaborative safety, where the people, system, machine, and the environment is possible to link, not only for the safety, health, but additionally the well-being will be, realized. Today, since the time is limited, not so many examples are shown, but in Toyota company, Toyota has a department to call the, I cannot translate it correctly in English, but they have a department called the Iki Suishin Shitsu, means to make the people really work under the condition of well-being with the more positive, thinking. This is just one example, but many people are trying to find such direction, although it is not so easy to make all the employees thinking so positive, but digitalization really support to improve such environment. And fortunately, we can host the Vision Zero Summit Japan next year. As I added a little bit about the program. So 16 session chairs, we talk about, many subjects, implementation of Vision Zero mindset, or the leadership, or education. As Ms. Tao mentioned, the education, very important to the top management, to consider more about the importance of the Vision Zero mindset. But on top of that, digitalization, like a AI technology and robotics technology and mobility technology, really linked to the not only just the safety, health, but well-being. So, we are in the age that we can combine the digitalization technology to the Vision Zero, so that the collaborative safety, or whatever you call the digitalization collaborative work, is really merged to the Vision Zero mindset management. So this is the time we move all together, in the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding us of the Vision Zero Summit 2022 and of the side event that you will be organizing tomorrow, the 19th. And so we invite all our viewers also to learn more about this exciting event for next year, because all the session chairs, the 16 session chairs, will introduce and present their sessions, so you know what to expect next year. So we have a few minutes left. So what I would like to do at the end is to ask each of you to say what would be your recommendation to our viewers, to our audience, if they want to take up a discussion about digitalization in their company, in their environment. What should they focus on? Should they focus on the risks? Should they focus on the opportunities? How should they start this discussion? What would be your advice on how to kind of get started? Because I think that's maybe the most important thing. As I said, it should not come because digitalization is there already. It happens now for many reasons, and has always been technological development always happened, but it's so critical now that we try to build in safety, health, and well-being into the algorithm from the very beginning. So what would be your recommendations for our viewers? Penele, would you like to start?
I think actually my recommendation would be not to be afraid to start the dialogues. Actually, even if you're a small company or a large company, my experience is that if we should have commitment to make the most out of the digitalization, we need to start the conversation. And then it doesn't matter actually so much, I think, on if you know maybe all the arguments in advance and so on. So because sometimes commitment will arise just by starting a dialogue and just by listening to the input from the employees or from the managers. It will get more in time. The discussion will be maybe more nuanced also, but just to start somewhere in the organization to talk about these matters would be my recommendation.
Thank you. Winston, how would you go about? So what do you do? Because I know you are actively involved.
I think I would like to add one point is government support and the initiative is also important. Because say for example, in Hong Kong, when we developed the smart city, our chief executive has put this agenda in her policy address. And with such a high profile, then various sectors and the industry will recognize that the development of the new technology is an important policy. And they will work together and see how they can contribute to the development of the new technology. So for me, I also think that the government support and the initiative is also important for the help the industry to have a innovative culture on the digitization.
Absolutely, and I hope that the World Congress now will address this, because there you have some of the ministers and the top executive together to discuss this, because you're absolutely right. There has to be a policy framework for this as well, to motivate also employers, but also to support them, as you do in Hong Kong. Mr. Kawata, what would be your recommendation to other companies? How should they start this discussion?
Yeah. Okay, so I also think that in Japan, so I already explained that 2017 to 2020 is a decrease. Before that is almost level, but these 5 years is a decrease for the fatal accident. So same time, I-construction, Japan government is a strongly leadership for the construction technology. So in that time, not only a production, also the safety improvement. So that's a very important. So not only a construction company, also the government is together. So that's kind of the new technology. So maybe now in Japan is a very improve the situation for the site construction site. So I agree that Mr. Yang is a strongly government leadership is very important.
Yeah, thank you. Marco?
Thank you very much.
Marco, please.
Well, I think in contrast to the other panelists, more like small startup company doing their technologies thing. What I've experienced, and that might be a bit contrary to the basic mindset of this community, of probably being a bit more risk averse and trying to reduce failures. If you want to do innovative things, you have to expect to fail. That is something that we do as a startup, like every day, every hour, with the goal to find out what actually works. And I think this is very important, and we see it with all the companies who work together to take this risk that it might fail. Of course, there's like certain areas where you want to avoid like the dramatic failures, but in general, there should be like this mindset of, okay, let's try it, and it might fail, but we should try to find out what works. So maybe that could be from a small startup guy recommendation for the largest strategic ideas.
I think it's a very important observation, because we are in part of a process. Because if we just are reactive and wait until things have been developed and then try to correct, then it's too late. So we have to be at the startup of these developments in a company or even in developing new technologies in order to insert our topic and try to avoid that we have to correct afterwards. And there, of course, we have to also be ready to take risks. But you're right. We normally, especially when you talk about government institutions and so on, they're very risk adverse because this can be dangerous now. But I think it's a very important message. And I'm very grateful for your comment, and because I think this is something we really have also to take into account, that we cannot only be on the safe side, but we need, of course, then to be aware of where we take these risks in development and failure, because we have to learn from these failures if we want to be part of this development process and not just at the end of the supply chain, where we often are. And then we have to correct all the problems this is causing us, and often it's much more costly than being there in the very beginning and maybe then having the risk outline. So no, I really appreciate that. Anik, what would be the agency's kind of recommendation?
Yes, I was thinking fits really well to the other speakers and also to Marco. I think if you think about ocean, you should consider it from the beginning, and that's to take all stakeholders. When you discuss ocean, you should talk with workers, employers, but also with designers and everybody who's in there from the beginning. I think that's really important, and also to have everybody used and that they feel what it means to take safety into account, because of course risk needs to be taken, but still you can find the boundaries and see that safety is what is actually safety. It's more than accidents. It's also this mental aspect, so that everybody is from the beginning used to the concept of what we mean by OSH, and that's by communicating about it. And the other aspect is to have the user centered. On the other end, the user should be in the middle. That's what we see in our research now, which is still going on, but this kind of user-centered approaches is really important because they, in the end, have to work with it. And if you feel in control, then it's good. But if you let yourself too much controlled by the technology, then that's not good for your stress level. And also, if you feel it's just a part of the process and you don't understand the process anymore, that's not good. So having this human in control, the user in control, that's I think very important to take into account for safety as well as healthy working.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm thinking about this co-designing. Everybody's talking about co-design and involving user groups and so on. I think this is really absolutely critical when we do this technology. And Marco has invited us, so we can help to get it right. So but it's generally a good point that we should really be on the forefront, and our people need to be involved. Not only the OSH experts, but everybody should be involved in that process and before it's introduced. That's a very important point. So, Mr. Fujita, you have the final word. What is your recommendation besides attending your side event and next year's summit?
Well, this is the great opportunity to learn. For example, we always learn from the talk by Mr. Winston Yang, how Hong Kong is really trying to utilize technology to the new, safer, environment. It's really inspiring. Since we have been discussing with Mr. Kawata, always how digitalization to implement into the industry. We are talking that we should learn from Hong Kong more, how should I say, we Japanese are very much proud of, utilization in robotics because, we have so many robot manufacturers. We are very working closely. But on top of that, Hong Kong is really trying to utilize technology to make the people's safety, health, and well-being. So this is just one example, but we also learning from Marco, from the different aspect. So that my recommendation is to benchmarking the other good practice, like today. So this is one key to be inspired to move to the next step. Unless otherwise, we just, stay. But we, as Mr. mentioned, we should challenge, don't be afraid. This is my word. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends, first of all, I would like to thank our excellent panel for having contributed to this discussion, where we just at the beginning, but we need to take this discussion now. And I hope that this has been an inspiring event for you, the audience, that there are some take-home messages, that some presentations that you found interesting, and otherwise, well, we wish us all, a successful 22nd World Congress. Finally, it takes place online, so we're excited about the concepts, and we wish, of course, a lot of good luck and success to the organizers, and a lot of inspiration for all of you, for all of us. For this, on behalf of the International ORP Foundation and the Global Vision Zero Business Council, thank you very much, and stay safe.